A 19-year-old vanished on his way to the airport, dropped off at LAX, caught on no cameras, and never seen again. For years, authorities dismissed it as a runaway or a fluke, ignoring broken cameras, sealed tunnels, and a system too fragmented to see what it buried. But nearly 7 years later, a buried scan from beneath the airport exposed a forgotten structure and a trail someone meant to stay hidden. This time, they couldn't look away, because the last piece had surfaced, and the truth was finally forcing its way out. On the morning of June 3, 2019 at 5:42 a.m., 19-year-old Mark Holloway left his mother's home in Torrance, California. The weather was clear, 63 degrees, with a coastal breeze pushing inland. CCTV from a neighbor's Ring camera captured Mark stepping onto the curb with a black Samsonite suitcase and a gray backpack slung across one shoulder. His Uber arrived at 5:47 a.m., a silver 2014 Toyota Camry, license plate 7FMR221. Mark had a 9:10 a.m. international flight out of LAX, bound for Osaka, Japan, to spend the summer with his estranged father. This trip had been planned for months, his first trip abroad, his first solo flight. According to airline records, he'd checked in online the night before. He never made it to the gate. The Uber driver, 42-year-old Antonio Salazar, told police he dropped Mark off at the airport's Terminal 7 at 6:24 a.m., receipt time-stamped and location logged via GPS, 33.946 degree N, 118.4085 degree W. Surveillance footage from curbside pickup that day shows a dozen passengers exiting rideshares and taxis, but no sign of Mark. Not in front of Terminal 7, not in adjacent terminals, not inside. At 10:12 a.m., after repeated calls from his father went unanswered, Mark's mother, Denise Holloway, filed a missing person report with the Torrance Police Department. Patrol officers initially believed Mark had missed his flight or lost his phone. But when United Airlines confirmed his boarding pass was never scanned and his name was called over the intercom at Gate 76 without reply, concern escalated. In the officer's body cam footage, Denise sits at the kitchen table, fingers trembling over her coffee mug. "He's never done anything like this," she says. "He was excited. He even laid out his passport the night before." By 2:40 p.m., LAX airport police began reviewing surveillance footage across all terminals and checking lost and found logs. No sightings, no interactions. No camera ever picked up Mark inside the airport. The last digital trace from Mark's phone was a ping at 6:29 a.m. near the intersection of Sepulveda BLVD and 98th Street, just before the airport tunnel, less than a mile from Terminal 7. Investigators now had a troubling scenario. A teenager in good health and stable mental condition, who called a rideshare, left home with identification, was dropped off at an airport, and then, within a few hundred feet of one of the most surveilled locations in the U.S., vanished. As night fell, a dispatcher issued a BOLO, be on lookout, alert. Missing juvenile male, Holloway, Mark, age 19. Last seen wearing dark jeans, white hoodie, gray backpack. May have been en route to LAX. No known medical or psychological conditions, possibly endangered. A search perimeter was established by 6:09 p.m., starting at the last known GPS ping. But there were no skid marks, no abandoned suitcase, no signs of a struggle. One chilling detail lingered in the officer's notes. Mark's boarding pass, tied to his online reservation, had a digital time trigger. It remained unscanned and unused, even after the flight departed. Had Mark ever made it to the terminal doors? Or did something happen in the gap between GPS drop-off and security camera range? June 3, 2019. 7:10 p.m. Less than 14 hours since Mark was last seen, search teams began combing the Sepulveda corridor, a 1-mile stretch between the airport tunnel and the drop-off point logged by Uber GPS. Torrance PD, in coordination with airport police and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, established a red grid search zone, designating Zone Alpha from Sepulveda and 98th St. westward to the Terminal 7 loop. An early lead came from a traffic cam feed stored by Caltrans. At 6:26 a.m., just 2 minutes after Antonio Salazar's recorded drop-off, a tall figure in a white hoodie was seen walking eastbound away from the terminal. The footage was grainy, taken from 200 feet away, but the timestamp and clothing matched. By 8:22 p.m., police had secured the footage and canvassed nearby businesses. LAX Lot C, a long-term parking structure nearby, was swept for any sign of movement. Officers used FLIR-equipped drones to scan heat signatures from above. Footprints were located. Size 11, consistent with Mark's known shoe size, tracked across a construction site behind a fenced-off utility building near the south perimeter wall, but the tracks stopped abruptly at the asphalt. 911 dispatch call, logged Airport-6 0319 at 9:03 p.m. Dispatcher, 911, what's your emergency? Caller, female, mid-30s. There's a bag. There's a suitcase sitting by the service road near the canal fence. No one's around. It looks torn. Dispatcher, where exactly are you located? Caller, I'm at the back of that rental car lot on Century Boulevard, near the dumpsters. It's not supposed to be here. Dispatcher, we have officers en route. Do not touch the bag. Police responded within 5 minutes. The suitcase was navy blue, same color and make as Mark's, but bore no luggage tag and was later identified as not his. Inside were discarded airport brochures, trash, and a child's sock. False lead. As the first night wore on, Denise Holloway was interviewed again. In her words, he was methodical. He packed days in advance. Mark doesn't just change plans. If he was scared or upset, he would have told me. By 4 a.m. on June 4th, the search grid expanded to include 5 square miles, reaching as far south as El Segundo. Police began door-to-door inquiries along Century Boulevard motels. Nothing. No security footage of Mark entering buildings. No reports of trespassing. Investigators discovered Mark had withdrawn $60 in cash from an ATM near his home on the evening of June 2nd. His checking account with a balance of $314 remained untouched. His passport, ID, and boarding pass, according to records, had not been scanned or reissued. Authorities released a public bulletin. Missing, Mark Holloway, 19. Last seen en route to LAX. Any information? Call 213-555-0145. Anonymous tips, welcome. Online, the story began to circulate, spurring a groundswell of armchair investigators. Reddit threads speculated everything from airport trafficking rings to a planned disappearance. But police cautioned there was still zero evidence of foul play. By the second evening, no new clues had emerged. Search teams were pulled back, awaiting leads. Had Mark willingly walked away from his flight? Or had he been intercepted, somewhere between the taxi and the terminal doors? Comment hope if you'd search forever. By the morning of June 5, 2019, Mark Holloway had been missing for 48 hours. No ATM use, no phone activity, no airport footage. In most disappearances, those first 2 days are critical. After that, investigators enter a phase known unofficially as the drift, when physical evidence begins to fade, leads go cold, and attention from the public begins to shift. But in Mark's case, something rare happened. The case expanded, and fast. That morning, the Los Angeles County Search and Rescue deployed 2 Bell 412 helicopters equipped with FLIR cameras, forward-looking infrared, to rescan the southern airport perimeter and surrounding water channels, including the Dominguez Channel and Bologna Creek. Each helicopter covered a 6-mile radius, low altitude, 200 feet off the ground. FLIR operator log, June 5, 7:44 a.m. Negative on thermal traces south of Sepulveda. Notable heat bloom near oil tanks, later identified as stray dogs. Continuing sweep. At the same time, volunteers began to arrive, first in dozens, then over 100 within the day. Many were local high school students who'd known Mark, or residents drawn in by media coverage. They formed a coordinated ground effort, color-coded teams with grid maps, orange safety vests, and a chain of command led by Deputy Raul Rivas, a 23-year department veteran. "This isn't a trailhead disappearance," Rivas told a KTLA camera crew. "This is a high-traffic, high-surveillance area. If a person disappears in plain view, we need to ask, how is that possible?" Local business owners also contributed. A Shell station on La Cienega Boulevard turned over 2 days of surveillance footage. A Denny's manager a mile north offered time-stamped receipts to see if Mark had entered post-drop-off. Neither yielded anything useful. Meanwhile, United Airlines flight UA-826, Mark's original flight, had landed safely in Osaka. A special agent from the U.S. Embassy confirmed no stowaways, no irregularities, and no trace of Mark. His seat, 21A, Economy Plus, had remained empty the entire flight. By midday, Torrance PD held a closed-door briefing. Inside were forensic analysts, behavioral profilers, and digital specialists. A full hour was spent analyzing the Uber driver's statement, every detail of his interaction with Mark. Salazar had no prior criminal record, no inconsistencies in his account, and GPS logs matched precisely with traffic patterns. Still, officers requested a polygraph test. Salazar complied. Result: no deception detected. Later that day, detectives accessed Mark's Snapchat metadata. His last known message, sent at 6:11 a.m., read only, "Almost there." It was addressed to a contact labeled Dad. Forensic analysts confirmed the message was sent from Mark's device using a 4G signal tower in Westchester, about 0.8 miles from Terminal 7. This suggested one thing: Mark was alive and communicating at least 5 minutes after the drop-off time. As evening fell, local news stations began looping footage of the boy in the white hoodie. One clip, captured from an auxiliary traffic cam across Jenny Street, showed a fleeting figure entering a narrow side street behind a cargo warehouse. The clip was 5 seconds long. Unclear. But the timestamp was 6:28 a.m., the same window as Mark's final phone ping. Had he gotten lost? Was he following someone? Or was he being watched, lured somewhere just out of frame? That night, the Holloway family offered a $15,000 reward for any credible lead. The line between search and rescue had begun to blur. By June 6th, the focus shifted to the South Airfield Freight Corridor, an industrial sector where unmarked trucks move daily between airline vendors and third-party shippers. Security is tight, access is badge restricted, but investigators feared the unthinkable. Had Mark been smuggled off airport grounds? FBI liaison Special Agent Harlan Deeks joined the case. In his first recorded statement, "We're looking at cargo manifests, vendor logs, employee rosters. If this was an abduction, it was structured, planned with precise timing and location. Still, no evidence of a vehicle pickup, no trace of his suitcase, and no electronic trail beyond 6:29 a.m. At the command tent, Denise Holloway asked the question out loud no one else wanted to say. What if he didn't get lost? What if someone made sure he couldn't be found? The sun set on the third day with search teams pushing deeper into runoff tunnels and concrete flood channels near LAX, tight, claustrophobic spaces filled with stagnant water, old cans, and the dark scent of salt air. What was Mark doing behind the terminals? And why did his trail vanish, just steps from where millions travel every day? By June 7, 2019, 4 days into the disappearance, the public's attention had locked onto the Holloway case. It wasn't just local news anymore. CNN, Dateline, and Inside Edition had begun circling the story. The idea that a healthy, sober, level-headed teen could vanish in one of the most heavily surveilled transportation hubs in the country was both terrifying and captivating. The nickname "The Airport Vanish" began trending by noon. A dedicated subreddit reached over 10,000 members in 48 hours, flooded with timestamp comparisons, conspiracy trees, and layered Google Maps screenshots. On Instagram, Mark's last known selfie, posted at 9:43 p.m. the night before his flight, showing him smiling in his room with a caption, "Tomorrow I fly," had surpassed 85,000 likes. This was the beginning of what investigators call the distortion window, a phase where leads pour in fast, but quality nosedives. By Friday evening, Torrance PD's tip line had received 113 unique calls, 47 of which were deemed low-value speculation. But 2 seemed promising. The first came from a rideshare driver claiming to have picked up someone matching Mark's description near Dockweiler Beach on the evening of June 3rd. He described the young man as nervous, barefoot, and carrying only a gray backpack. He just kept saying, "Take me south," the driver recalled. He didn't say why. I dropped him off near an old storage depot by Redondo. GPS data from the driver's app confirmed he had picked up a passenger at 9:41 p.m., But further analysis revealed the rider was a 27-year-old local surfer who'd left his shoes at the beach after drinking. False lead. The second tip was stranger. An anonymous caller phoned the KTTV Fox 11 newsroom, claiming to have seen Mark at a transit hub in San Diego, 2 hours south, riding the Green Line wearing the same hoodie. The voice was male, mid-50s, unspecific. The tip was forwarded to San Diego PD, and footage from the 12th and Imperial Transit Center was reviewed. At 11:06 a.m. June 5th, a man in a white hoodie did enter the frame, but zoom-ins revealed an older, heavier build and a distinct limp. Second false lead. Meanwhile, law enforcement turned inward, reviewing their own protocols. One major question was whether surveillance could have missed Mark entirely. In theory, unlikely. But in practice? LAX houses over 2,000 cameras, each recording in overlapping shifts, with footage stored for up to 7 days unless flagged. Terminal 7 alone has 146. Yet by day 5, not a single camera inside the terminal showed Mark crossing a threshold. That suggested one of 3 things. 1. He never entered the terminal. 2. He entered a blind spot, rare but not impossible. 3. He was disguised. Authorities leaned heavily toward the first theory. They began to dissect the 6-minute window. 6:24 a.m. Drop-off logged 6:29 a.m. Last phone ping near the tunnel. No confirmed sightings in that time. A diagram drawn by forensic analyst Dr. Erica Nolan, later leaked online, charted 3 potential movement paths. Path A, walked to terminal entry. Path B, diverted east into side freight corridor. Path C, entered a vehicle out of frame. Only one of those had surveillance proof, Path A, and it showed others arriving, but not Mark. That weekend, police also followed a psychological angle. Mark's recent text records, reviewed under warrant, revealed no known conflicts, suicidal ideation, or withdrawal. He had sent 14 texts the day before, mostly mundane. Don't forget to water the plant. To his sister, what terminal do I go to? To his dad, I'm charging my Kindle. To a friend. Nothing that pointed to flight, fear, or anger. But public interest kept pushing the story outward. An independent group of volunteers began searching storm drain entrances and utility access hatches near LAX. One TikTok video, showing a flashlight scan inside a runoff tunnel, went viral, 4.3 M views in 24 hours. It didn't reveal anything, but it gave a sense of how desperate and decentralized the effort had become. That same day, someone came forward claiming they had spoken to Mark after the disappearance. Her name was Catherine Brody, 37, a barista at a 24-hour diner near Imperial Highway. She said a young man came in around 7 a.m. on June 3rd, confused, quiet, and wearing airport clothes. According to her, he looked lost, not homeless, clean, but like disconnected. He sat at the counter, ordered eggs, didn't eat them. Then he left before paying. Detectives cross-referenced footage. There was a male customer at that time, but facial analysis showed a man with a chin piercing, unaccounted for in Mark's ID photos, and a driver's license from Nevada found on file. Third false lead. Still, the media ate it up. By Monday, Kaiser Find Mark Holloway trended on Twitter. Podcasts began profiling the case. Some speculated about human trafficking. Others theorized Mark had gotten caught in something darker, a misidentified person mistaken for someone else. Then came the rumors. A YouTube channel with over 2 million followers posted a 14-minute theory breakdown, claiming Mark had been abducted by an underground black market organ network operating through abandoned airline cargo. It was sensational and completely unverified, but it gained 3.6 million views in 2 days. Denise Holloway pleaded with the public in an emotional statement. Please stop inventing stories about my son. He didn't run. He didn't fake anything. Someone out there knows what happened. Just tell us. Please. Yet behind the media noise, no verified new leads had emerged. Every credible report circled back to the same gap, the brief 6-minute span between drop-off and disappearance. Who or what can remove a person from a monitored zone without leaving a trace? And had the public attention helped or buried the truth in static? By August 2019, the missing person posters had faded beneath sun and rain. Search volunteers returned to daily life. Forensics teams closed out their open evidence logs, and Mark Holloway's name, once a daily headline, began to slide quietly off the news cycle. At the 6-month mark, the case file, labeled MH019LAX, was formally reclassified as inactive, pending new information. The red pins on the precinct map were taken down, search tents were packed, and in a climate-controlled storage room at the Torrance Police Department, a banker's box labeled Holloway was placed on a steel rack, next to dozens of others from unsolved disappearances. Inside were 132 printed photographs, a USB stick of traffic cam footage, and a sealed envelope marked, "Do not open unless remains found." But to Mark's mother, Denise, the silence was intolerable. She refused to move on. Each year on June 3rd, she hosted a public vigil near the drop-off site at Terminal 7. Sometimes 20 people showed up, sometimes only 3. She brought candles, photos, and one specific object, Mark's digital alarm clock, which had gone off the morning of his disappearance at 4:45 a.m., and had been found still ticking when police first searched his room. "Every year it rings," she said, "even though he's not here. I can't shut it off. I let it ring." Meanwhile, the online community didn't let go entirely. A subreddit dedicated to the case maintained weekly discussion threads. By year 2, user eHangerWitness uploaded a 3D reconstruction of the terminal area using open-source drone data and flight paths. The render suggested a temporary blind spot caused by a shipping container being moved during the exact time of Mark's drop-off. The LAPD responded, "We reviewed this detail. No new leads resulted." Privately, not all detectives believed the case had truly gone cold. Detective Kalani Shaw, one of the original investigators, kept a running timeline on a corkboard in his garage, string, push pins, and all. He marked recurring oddities. Uber GPS confirmed the driver stopped at Terminal 7. Yet no camera shows Mark getting out. His phone pinged 5 minutes later, on a road without pedestrian access. And then, silence. "1 minute, we know exactly where he is," Shaw told a retired colleague. "The next, he's gone. If you plan to vanish, you'd have to know that terrain, that timing, that gap." But no such evidence ever linked Mark to premeditated disappearance. No encrypted apps, no burner phone, no strange purchases. His laptop search history was routine. Currency exchange Japan, what to pack for international flight, jet lag remedies. Then in 2021, 3 years after Mark vanished, a new theory emerged, one that divided investigators. An anonymous tipster submitted a letter to Torrance PD titled, "The Cargo Path." Typed, not handwritten. It read, "You are looking at the terminal. You should be looking at the service corridor beneath it. Accessed from Gate 10B utility crawl space. It connects to the old logistics shaft no longer in use. There is your path." Detectives cross-referenced the site. Gate 10B was an emergency maintenance stairwell behind the arrivals loop, accessible only by badge and key code. But building schematics from a 1998 retrofit revealed a discontinued tunnel that once connected to a baggage conveyor shaft, long since decommissioned and sealed. Still, no forensic evidence linked that location to Mark. Without a direct clue, hair, fiber, footprint, LAPD couldn't get a warrant to excavate the sealed accessway. The cost would be prohibitive. A request to LAX facilities management was denied. No physical trace, no dig. And so the theory, however compelling, joined the long list of things they couldn't rule out but couldn't prove either. Meanwhile, time passed. Year 2. Mark's father moved back to the U.S., but did not return to California. He was never seen at the vigils. His interview with KTLA in 2020 lasted 71 seconds. "It's like time swallowed him. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to grieve this." He never gave a second. Year 3. A local true crime podcast called Unclaimed Gate aired a 3-part episode on Mark's disappearance. The hosts walked through the drop-off location, interviewing former LAX employees, one of whom suggested that in rare instances, customs tarmac doors could remain unlocked during maintenance. "It's not protocol," the ex-worker said. "But if you're on a ladder and step away for 5 minutes, yeah, someone could slip through." No evidence confirmed this in Mark's case, but it added another layer of speculation. Year 4. Denise filed a civil suit to force the release of unreleased terminal footage, specifically from baggage processing areas. The judge ruled in favor of LAX security, citing public safety and infrastructure vulnerability. The footage remained sealed. Year 5. A high school classmate of Mark's, now studying criminal justice, petitioned to have the case reopened. Over 24,000 signatures were collected. Torrance PD acknowledged receipt, but did not reopen the case. The closest thing to movement came that same year when an internal audit flagged a piece of misfiled evidence, a gray backpack, similar to Mark's, collected from Terminal 6 lost and found, but logged under the wrong case number. It was retrieved, examined, and confirmed not his. Wrong brand, wrong contents, just another look-alike. And so, by June 2024, 5 years after Mark Holloway vanished without a trace, his case was quietly placed into the Decade Review queue, a department list of unsolved cold cases to be reopened at the 10-year mark, unless new evidence emerged. But not everyone was willing to wait that long. In a taped address on the 5th anniversary vigil, Denise stood on the same curb where her son was last seen. She held the same clock. She read from the same photo. If you still remember his face, if you still wonder what happened, don't stop. Don't let this story turn into a footnote. Somewhere, someone knows. Comment: still looking, if you'd never give up hope. After the discovery of Mark Holloway's suitcase in the Ballona Creek storm tunnel, authorities faced a renewed question. If his luggage ended up underground, could his body have followed? On December 4, 2025, LAPD Marine Unit partnered with Hydronetics Recovery Group to conduct a full internal sweep of the channel system using pipe crawler ROVs and underwater sonar drones. The focus: a vertical overflow shaft beneath Vista Del Mar, which connected to the wider Ballona network via older unmapped junctions. This shaft, sealed from above, was only accessible by insertion at a downstream hatch, 114 feet deep. Visibility: less than 3 feet. Current: sluggish, post-flood sediment buildup. Water temperature: 54 degrees Celsius. On day 1 of the operation, ROV Mantis 3 was deployed. ROV log excerpt, December 5, 8:17. AM operator: Mantis entering overflow cavity, depth 87 feet. Sonar tech: hard contact, north wall, grid metallic echo. Operator: slowing thrusters, approaching foreign object. Diver comms: object is fabric wrapped, obstructed, positioning arms for tag. Operator: tagging item Delta 4, logging GPS, reversing path. The wrapped object was not recovered immediately. Too large, too fragile. Instead, sonar scans were used to chart its exact dimensions. Approx. 5'9", length, 21-inch width. Its silhouette closely resembled a human form curled forward. The team pulled back for risk assessment. A full-body retrieval required additional clearance. That evening, forensic divers entered manually through the hatch. Diver log, December 5, 9:03 p.m. Entering access chamber, no toxic gas, reaching Delta 4. Fabric confirmed, dark, likely nylon, fused at seams. Tagging location, marking for lift harness, visibility near zero. LAPD officials did not disclose the object publicly, but off-record sources suggested it could be a wrapped body bag, severely degraded. The operation paused pending recovery protocols. At the Holloway home, Denise received the news with guarded restraint. "They said it might be him," she told a reporter, "but I've heard that sentence so many times. Until they show me something, I won't believe it." Still, the possibility electrified the online community. What lay inside Delta 4? And had it been there since 2019, just waiting? Comment: never stop if you'd go down the tunnel too. By year 6, Mark Holloway's case had become frozen in time. The posters were long gone. The tip line went silent. His belongings remained unaccounted for. No body, no trace. Just a timestamp. 6:24 a.m., outside Terminal 7. And then nothing. Denise Holloway kept returning anyway. Every June 3rd at dawn, she stood at the curb where the Uber had dropped him off. Same spot, same time. "If I leave," she once said, Then it's like I'm agreeing he's not coming back. She brought the same thing each year, the alarm clock Mark had set the night before his flight. It still rang at 4:45 a.m. Detectives had moved on. So had the public. But online, the case had mutated. No longer just a disappearance, now a symbol of how a person can vanish in a system too large to notice. An anonymous data analyst posted airport utility maps showing that a maintenance camera outage had occurred near the Terminal 7 perimeter during Mark's disappearance. Others flagged that a drainage tunnel inspection was postponed that same week. Theories bloomed. Nothing was confirmed. In 2025, Denise hired a private investigator, Ronan Glenn, ex-federal, known for tracing missing logistics, not people. He reviewed badge access logs, underground schematics, terminal retrofit plans. What he found wasn't a breakthrough, but it was something. A utility access shaft behind Terminal 7 had been reopened for repairs in late May 2019 and sealed again 2 days after Mark vanished. It was unmonitored, never searched, no cameras. That's not proof, Glenn said, but it's a door, one no one ever opened. The LAPD declined to comment. Meanwhile, Detective Shaw, long since retired, admitted off record. There are places out there where a person could disappear in 60 seconds. We just don't talk about them. Denise started sending LAPD one envelope a month. Inside, a photo of Mark. Same caption, every time. Still missing, still waiting. At year's end, a cold case clerk flagged an anonymous note slipped into the Holloway file. It read, "Cross-check May-June 2019 flood channels. Map against missing items." No signature, no follow-up. But it meant someone, somewhere, was still looking. The case hadn't moved, but maybe something under it had. By early 2026, the Holloway case had entered its 7th year. Officially, unresolved, unsolved, unactive. Unofficially, something had shifted. It began during a city-funded upgrade of flood control systems beneath the LAX perimeter. For the first time, contractors were ordered to use LiDAR surface imaging to scan for voids and blockages across several access points, including a long-sealed runoff culvert behind Terminal 6, a concrete structure partially collapsed and abandoned since 2014. No one expected anything unusual. But on February 8th, a technician reviewing the LiDAR density plot noticed an anomaly. A pocket of collapsed sediment, about 5 feet long, resting near a curve in the drainage tunnel that had never been mapped correctly. The shape wasn't definitive, but it wasn't natural either. Authorities were alerted. The site fell within the original 2019 search radius, but had never been explored due to unstable concrete and lack of mapped access. Detective Lena Urias was notified. She quietly reactivated the case file under internal inquiry status. Rather than dispatch ground teams immediately, LAPD partnered with Hydronetics Recovery, the same private outfit that had assisted on infrastructure mapping years earlier. Their tool of choice, a Sonar EM2040 multi-beam scanner mounted on a tethered sub-ROV designed for confined channels and void detection in flooded spaces. On February 11th, the team began scanning. ROV Operation Log, Feb 11, 9:46 a.m. Tech 1. Sonar mapping engaged. Sweep beginning south crawl space. Tech 2. Hold. Getting irregular echo at 28 feet. Surface is non-porous. It's flat. Supervisor. Tagging void as 0.7. Possible metal or composite. Tech 1. Confirming shape. Elongated. Possibly collapsed container. Supervisor. Lock GPS and pull feed. The void was recorded, logged, and classified as foreign structure unverified. From the surface, no visible access remained. The collapse had sealed it. Urias requested a forensic overlay of the LiDAR data onto historical rainfall maps from May-June 2019. The results aligned. That culvert had overflowed within 72 hours of Mark's disappearance, channeling runoff toward Ballona Creek. A perfect route for debris, or a suitcase, and yet no suitcase had ever been logged in that section. The team reviewed maintenance footage from a nearby outlet dated June 6, 2019. One clip, grainy and brief, showed a worker removing a large object wrapped in black tarp from a clogged drain gate. The object was never logged. The timestamp matched the week Mark disappeared. When investigators located the retired maintenance worker, he remembered dragging the object aside, but not what became of it. It stank. Heavy. Didn't want to mess with it. I figured, garbage, you know? There's always stuff in there. No further detail. For Urias, the weight of it all came down to a map on her wall. 7 years old. Dozens of pins. Most of them gray. One, now, bright orange. The scan. The shaft. The tarp. The timeline. But still, no proof. Just proximity. Just patterns. We may not find anything, Urias wrote in her internal report, but something once passed through there, and no one asked until now. No announcement was made, no press conference, only a quiet requisition order, requesting excavation clearance, Point 7. At her kitchen table, Denise Holloway received a short, unsigned envelope. Inside was a printed screenshot from the LiDAR feed. One note scribbled on the bottom corner. It's not over. Was it finally a lead, or just another echo in the tunnel?